Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm Rod,
I'm David.
and this is Our Story, His Glory. And we're Fresh Start Christian Sober Living. David?
So today we have a special guest. This is a great friend of mine. We built a relationship. He was a member at Fresh Start for quite a while and gave his life to the Lord, got his life back on track, and he's doing excellent now. This is my brother in Christ. His name is Ian, and I'll just let him have the floor. Welcome, Ian.
Welcome.
Welcome, guys. Thanks, David, Rod. You guys are like family to me. And I really like this podcast. Let me just start off by saying that, like, this is to be a part of this, and anything I can do to help out with Fresh Start Christian Sober Living, it changed my life. And it was something I didn't even think that I wanted right at first. I honestly picked Fresh Start because it was budget friendly. When I was coming out of 30-day inpatient treatment and I was surveying my options, I was jobless, I was homeless, I was broke, and divorced, and facing multiple felony charges for the drama that ensued with my addiction. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to meet a bunch of Jesus freaks. That's what I thought. And I'm Christian. I was raised Catholic, went to church, but never had really a personal relationship. Just to maybe preface that by saying that I was raised Catholic, had religious training, and then I got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous and understood this idea of a higher power and a relationship with God. But it wasn't really as personal, I think, as the relationship I have now, which is what was needed in order for me to, I don't think that I overcame, I think he overcame, right? And I realized that it wasn't something I was going to do, that I had to put my trust and faith in God, right? And the steps of any, recovery program talk about that in the beginning, is recognizing this powerlessness over the drugs and alcohol, and the solution is step 2. There is a power greater than yourself, right?
That can restore you to sanity.
That's right. And you've got to tap into that, right? And I'm a smart guy. I know that. I've been around AA and recovery for a long time, but I never met somebody as passionate as David about the word, right? And could explain it to a guy who thinks he knows everything like me, or even the men of Fresh Start, right, that come through there, that stress the importance of, that's the only thing that's going to get me sober and that keeps me sober on a daily basis. Because I thought for a long time I was a bad person trying to get good, right? And that's how my relationship with God was and with other people. And it's not. I was sick trying to get well, and the idea of that we're all sinners, right? That idea resonated with me. I'm not bad. This is the way God made us, right? And that, I need his power, his glory, right? His strength to overcome. And I didn't realize as I started to do the work and came in Fresh Start. So kind of to back up, I came in and I thought all these preconceived notions, and I met the guys, and you guys don't force this on people, right? Nobody can force recovery or what it's going to take. There's drying out, right? And there's like doing the work. And you guys provide a great foundation with the house meetings and the personal relationships, I think, to try to help foster that. But to each guy, it's like you've got to seek that. You can't, nobody's going to do it to you or for you. What I found is that the pain and misery of my drinking and my drug addiction, here's my story. So I started going to recovery when I was about 19 years old. I was like, getting in trouble with the law, drugs, and wayward soul. And my brother took me up in Chicago, and I stayed with him and his wife and got introduced to recovery and it built a life. I had nothing really to lose. I was just a teenage kind of kid with a problem. And, so I didn't really, I don't know. I think that environment and circumstances, and I struggled in the beginning when I was young, and that's when I got introduced to crack cocaine. I was living in Chicago. I was staying in a studio, got a job as a runner at the Chicago Board of Trade. I had my own place, and I thought I had arrived, and I was lonely, and I sought companionship from lower companions that work in the companionship business in Chicago, and she happened to have some products to go with that relationship, and I was like, all right. And I tried the product and that, and then I was gone. And it took me not to a place of sordid people and things. I mean, I can handle that. It was how I felt about myself. I mean, the dark places that our drinking and our drug use take us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is really, and just because I put the stuff down, I am stuck with me, right? And all the stuff I've done and a way out, and I can't do it. I need to speak up a little bit. All right. So to kind of, fast forward a little bit, in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery in Chicago, was a young guy, built a career in sales. I don't really have a lot of higher education, but I'm a smart guy. And met a lot of great people and did some stuff and stayed sober. And then I met Karen, my ex-wife, current partner, and we got married and had a kid and met her in recovery, and life was great. And, we really didn't, do the deal. And when I say the deal, I mean, it's not about running to meetings every day because I think I'm going to drink. It's about developing our spiritual life, right? And I think that, we talk about his glory, that my alignment was always wrong. It was attached to other people, things, job, money, keeping up with the Joneses, codependency. I mean, I did everything but seek the right solution at times in my recovery. And you could be abstinent from drugs and alcohol, but to really deal with life, I had to realize and be so broken in such a way and lose everything that the only place I could turn was to him for to believe that my life could, turn around. I didn't even think I could do anything with it. I figured he had something for me. He's not done with me because, just to kind of tell you about the last 2 years, right before I went into treatment at the Meadows in November of 21, it was just my wife and I started drinking in October of 2020 and thought, oh, we'll see how this experiment goes. It was it was going to be an experiment, right? Because we were both in recovery. And we had to somehow justify the fact that after all these years of not drinking and remembering that we had lost touch with the pain and the suffering and the misery of that because it had been so far in the rearview mirror that it was going to be different this time. And that is the great lie that most addicts and alcoholics tell themselves, that they call it the mental obsession, right? You have the physical allergy, and then you have the mental obsession. Well, my mental obsession said, oh, I'm not going to go back to crack cocaine. I'm not going to I'm not going to go to bad, sordid places. I'm just going to have drink. I'm going to hang out in the suburbs with and all, it was once things became difficult in my relationship and I was out of the house because I, put alcohol in me. I don't know when to stop. That's what makes me an alcoholic. It says in the book, right? If you don't know when or how much you're going to drink once you start drinking, you might be an alcoholic. If you have no control, right, over how much you drink or when you're going to stop. And that was always true for me. I didn't know. It was a crapshoot. And usually it was until I either passed out, blacked out, or was in handcuffs. It got to that point. At first it was a little marijuana here and there and some drinks, but once the substance got into my body, I have no control, and that's how I understand that other people stop when they say, oh, I have a job I have to get to tomorrow. I'm just going to have 4 drinks or I'm just going to do this. I couldn't. Once it was in me, I wanted more. Mm-hmm. And it was it triggered this thing that's called a craving, phenomenon of craving. And that's this idea that I am drinking or smoking to satisfy a craving that is beyond my mental control, right? There was not enough crack cocaine in the world. I could smoke up a couple of 3.5s if I wanted to, and very quickly, and still be running out trying to sham.
On the chasing it.
That's right. Lie, cheat, and steal to find more. And I became this person that I hated, really. That I didn't want to be. Said and did things, and all I had to do to see my son was to stop using drugs and alcohol, and I could have started to do supervised visits. And I wanted to blame other people, right? And that's the hardest thing about why I couldn't, right? And that was the most difficult thing. And then once I met you guys and I got sober and got into treatment, and got separated, I had some time to think, right? And it was, it's once you've stopped using drugs and alcohol, it's about like, you got to find this power. I mean, because I tried to just self-will it, right? To try to self-will this recovery process, self-will, God, you can't, what I think is good for everybody else is not necessarily good for everybody else. It's probably just me being selfish, right? And so what I realized in this pursuit of seeking this relationship with God, and talking a lot with you in the garage, and the meetings that Rod would bring in on Saturdays, the attending Celebrate Recovery, going to church on Sunday, is that it's all the same solution, right? Mm-hmm. It's all the same sort of journey and destination, is that for, at least for me, and I don't know about everybody else, but when you don't have a relationship with God, you're probably have just only a relationship with yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your problems, your stuff, And for me, my relationship with God and turning to Him through prayer and being of service, right, and taking action for others is a way for me to stay out of self. And I think that, I don't know that, because all I do is I'll worry about me, and how things are going to work out. So I either live in fear of the future or fear the past or resent the past, right? And focusing on my relationship with God and how I interact with people allows me to elevate above what I think about myself, which changes. It changes moment by moment. And I'll sit there and catastrophize that things are not going to work out. The world hates me. I'm a felon. I'm a this, I'm a that. And when I can find a relationship with God and work on that, right, and try to be self-actualize, right, His love and forgiveness, right, that is available to me, right, as a sinner, if I seek it, is to transcend above what I think about myself, the way that I treated myself, the way that I treated other people, and to be something different right here, right now. It's not a future event. It's available right now.
That's right.
And because I always thought it was a destination, like I had to work 12 steps to get to this place where now I was going to be magically cured, and I was going to be holier than thou, and I would have the money, and I thought all these things had to happen. It doesn't. And that's when it was an awakening for me, and I realized that, it's still, you still have to walk a journey. I mean, life doesn't get better overnight, but I don't have to be stuck in self-pity. And one of the things, from talking with David is that, I made a commitment to, pursue a relationship with Christ, and said some prayers with you, and went and got baptized. And those were powerful moments because, the things that were going on in my life at the time, right? So I come out of treatment, I come into sober living, I'm going through a divorce, my wife's struggling with alcoholism, and then became my ex-wife. And, even sober, like the things that I did proves to me that it's not just about not drinking. Because there's a lot of sickness to that addiction, living in that lifestyle that precipitates that. I think either we're drinking to justify or we're just trying to self-medicate this spiritual sickness, right? And I every day I can make a choice, right, to be doing like that, to living like that over here, or I can be pursuing, right, a relationship with God and not giving into this, because I'm still the same person that did those things, and I have to learn how to take that experience, and I'm either using it as a power for good, or I'm using it to push myself and hold myself down and to go back to that life. Like every decision I think is like that, right? Yeah. And the only thing that's different is that I choose to not fill up on drugs and alcohol, and you have to replace it with something like a relationship with God.
That's right.
And that's it. That's for me. I mean, there is no. I don't know. I mean, there's really no other way to get sober or get clean unless you do that. And the journey's different from everybody. And I think that for me, I don't lose sight of that. And so then it makes seeing that. My dad said something to me once when I was a kid. He's like, "The Jesus in you brings out the Jesus in me." And what I got from that and what I think about that today is that I need to be, I don't know, it doesn't matter if I have a day clean or 2 weeks clean or, when I understand what the problem is and I can share that with somebody else and be of service and offer them the same grace that God gives, the same forgiveness, and that there is a way out, I get something from that. I am tapping into the power.
That's the key.
And
if you don't mind me interrupting.
Sure, go ahead.
So I can remember the transition point when you gave your life to Christ in that garage, and I start seeing the changes in you, in your attitude, in your thought process, in your behavior, in your conversations. And then when you decided to get baptized that very day, although you weren't able to see your son prior to giving your life to Christ, that same day you decided to get baptized, God opened up a door to allow your son to actually witness that baptism.
He did.
And from that point forward, I just start seeing your growth and seeing your walk. And you're a new creation. You're not the old Ian. You're a new creation. God is changing you. He's restoring you. And it's a beauty just to witness, man. And I'm proud of where you are right now. And I'm proud of what you're doing, man. Like, it makes my heart smile.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great day. I remember your son sitting with us at the church and watching his daddy be baptized and stuff like that. Something else you touched on, Ian, that we all have this man-made hole in our heart. Mm. And it's once we fill it and accept Christ, it's that 18-inch trip that takes some of us, like myself, 61 years, but some of us a long time to make that trip to fill that hole. And once Christ comes in there, we are new creatures.
Yeah.
And our lives are changed.
I wish that it's like, there's I don't know. I hear a lot of things and I try to make sense of what everybody says when I go to a lot of meetings, right? Because it's easy for me to wake up and think about me and my fears and how is this all going to work out. Because, listen, my life isn't perfect today by no means. I'm still dealing with a lot of the consequences of that life. There were multiple arrests. There were multiple car crashes, financial wreckage. It wasn't like, I had a problem and people wanted me to stop. It was like I was burning my life to the ground. Mm-hmm. Because I was, it's like I was on a suicide plan on installments, right? As I heard somebody at an NA meeting say once. And it's true. Because it was like I was in so much emotional pain, but a lot of it was mentally manufactured because I lacked the power to look at my life a different way, to see that just because I thought it was real, I believed the worst case scenario and only by opening up to David, other men in Fresh Start, opening up to people in a community of recovery, was I able to talk about what I thought was going on and get other people's perspective that weren't emotionally involved, right? Whether it was about me, about life, about job, about my kid, about a relationship with my wife. I couldn't see the true from the false. I couldn't, because I was emotionally affected by it. So I saw it one way, right? And that's it, right? So this idea of what brings out the Jesus in you brings out the Jesus in me is me sharing my vulnerabilities, right? All this pain and baggage that I carry around. Then I'm able to share with someone else and get perspective, right? And not walk around with that stuff.
Right.
And I still get caught up in it today. I'll get caught up sitting outside on the patio thinking about how my life isn't the way that I want it to be right now. And people aren't saying or doing the things that I want them to do or what I think would make us all happy. And truth is I don't know. Because the things that after I made that decision, right, to get baptized and stay clean and really do this and a lot of amazing shit did happen. A lot of amazing things did happen that I don't even recognize, right? Look at the reality is today I get to see my son every day. I'm back with my ex-wife, and we're now domestic partners, for the lack of a better term. And she's in recovery and committed to it, and we're dealing with things that I never would have imagined that I would be back there. I thought it was over, and I heartached and belly ached and probably drove myself to relapse and more insanity, right? And difficult stuff. But it's like I couldn't have manufactured an opportunity that happened. That was definitely God.
A God thing.
I mean, we're talking about Alex being able to come to baptism. That was God, wasn't me. And I have to realize that there's nothing I can do. I just got to get out of my own way and keep looking up, stay connected, and just see where he's presenting opportunities for me to be a different person, to come at it differently with love, right? With compassion, with the same forgiveness, right? Because I have to allow others to be as messed up as I am. And I think that was a game changer when I realized that she's a recovering alcoholic too, that's struggling and wasn't, that really changed things. And when I realized it did. And, I've realized that I don't think that, for me, it's every day is a choice. I decide, there's this parable we talk about, if there's two dogs and one's love and one's hate, and which one are you feeding more? That's the one that's going to become stronger, right?
Right.
And I believe that my spiritual condition, my relationship with God, Christ, is the same thing. What am I doing to feed that? And so I try to bring it into our home. With my son, praying and showing him how I rely on God, right, with this stuff that troubles me, because that's all I have to give him. He sees that, she sees that. And that's really what I've got. And I used to be ashamed of that. I don't think ashamed, but it was something that, I don't know, it was something that I did in quiet moments of desperation, right? And to me, it's something that I do today because it's the only thing that works. I mean, I used to be on a ton of medication before I went off the deep end, and I should be on a ton of medication, as crazy as I am. But, I think a healthy relationship with God and can pretty much solve a lot of problems. I mean, I'm not saying that God's going to fix people with severe disorders, but I think that a lot of the depression that I carried around, a lot of the anxiety, a lot of this stuff, the same mentality that went out searching for some kind of man-made solution to it is the same mentality that kept me with a very distant, foggy, it's like a AM connection to God. Now I feel like I have a DSL or a gigabyte connection. It says you get as much as you want, right? And I'm not saying I get blessed with all this stuff, but I think that, it's about how I feel about myself, how I carry myself, and what I believe today, because it's like, I don't know. I used to think that I could, solve all my problems if I just figured things out. And, the book talks about that for me, so it was very important to see where, selfishness is really me, not having a relationship with God. And then realizing that I'm not in control of everything allows me to just let things go, that it's none of my business, I just got to worry about my lane. We talk about that a lot. I got to stay in my lane. Stay in my lane. But it's amazing, and it's I guess the point I'm trying to drive home is it's easy to forget though. You get disconnected from people, you get disconnected from God, you get disconnected from remembering that I'm an addict, an alcoholic. I think that's kind of the common element too around, besides just with recovery and a relationship with Christ, and then realizing that I can't ever forget that I'm an addict and an alcoholic, because I have a built-in forgetter that'll be like, I start thinking I'm like other people and I'm not, and that's why it's important for me to be of service, I think, to, people in recovery, because I'm uniquely qualified now, right? I have experience, right, that I can share. And, it's probably where I feel the best, I mean, like I can relate, I think, when no one else can, right?
Right.
And, yeah.
That is amazing, man. I really appreciate your story, man. I embrace your story. I embrace you as a brother in Christ. And I'm willing and able to continue to walk with you along this journey. And we just want to thank you for joining us and coming to share your story with us.
Yes, thank you, Ian. And like you say, we're all sinners, and we accept Christ. We're still sinners, but thanks to His love and His forgiveness and His grace and endless mercy, we're able to put it forward and go forward the way we do. Don't forget, this is our story, His glory. We are Fresh Start Christian Sober Living. If you go to our webpage, there's a little thing there where you can donate. We're not begging, but if you could help, we always appreciate to help other people. Just remember, God loves you. We love you. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. God bless you.
I have searched many years on end. There was none that my soul could depend